Hello, my lovely friends, and happy Valentine's Day. It's Emma here, just a girl who loves Elvis. Now, today's episode is going to be a little softer than usual, a little more romantic, a little more playful, and perhaps a little more sentimental too. Because today we're going to ask a very simple question. What if, just for one day, Elvis Presley was your Valentine? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Emma, I've already imagined that about 1,000 times. And if I'm honest, so have I. Because if you've loved Elvis for any length of time, you've probably had that quiet little daydream at some point. The one where he isn't the king, not the legend, not the man on the stage. Just Elvis, standing at your door with that little shy smile. And maybe a bunch of roses in his hand. And today we're going to imagine what that might have felt like. Not in a silly or over-the-top way, but in a gentle, warm and very human way. Because when you strip away the fame, the lights and the noise, Elvis Presley, at heart, was a romantic. When people think of Elvis Presley, they often picture the jumpsuits, the crowds, the screaming fans. But when you listen to his love songs, really listen, you hear something else. You hear tenderness, you hear vulnerability, you hear a man who didn't just sing about love, but believed in it. Songs like Love Me Tender, Can't Help Falling in Love, Are You Lonesome Tonight? They weren't just performances. They felt personal. Almost like he was singing just to you. And maybe that's why, all these years later, so many fans still feel such a deep connection to him. Because Elvis didn't just perform romance. He made people feel loved. Because for many of us, Elvis wasn't just someone we admired. He was our first crush, our first idea of romance, our first glimpse of what a gentleman might look like. Maybe you saw him on television as a little girl. Maybe you heard his voice on the radio. Maybe someone in your family played his records at home. And without even realising it, he became part of your idea of love. Not just the romantic kind, but the warm kind, the comforting kind, the kind that makes you feel safe, just hearing a voice. And I think that's why Valentine's Day and Elvis seem to go together so naturally. Because when you think of him, you don't just think of a star. You think of a feeling. So let's imagine it. It's Valentine's Day, early evening. The light outside is soft and golden. There's a gentle knock at your door. Not loud, not impatient, just a quiet, respectful knock. You open the door, and there he is, Elvis Presley. Not in a jumpsuit, not in a movie costume, just a simple, smart jacket. His hair perfectly in place, that slightly shy expression on his face. And in his hand, a small bouquet of roses. Not in a huge dramatic arrangement, just something simple and thoughtful. He smiles and says, "Well, hi there. I was hoping you might be free tonight." And suddenly, you forget every clever thing you've ever said in your life, because your brain has simply stopped working. Of course, he opens a car door for you, because that's just who he was. You sit down, still trying to process the fact that Elvis Presley He's your Valentine. He gets into the driver's seat, gives you a quick, slightly nervous smile, and starts the engine. And maybe, just maybe, one of his gospel songs is playing softly on the radio. Because Elvis didn't always need noise. He preferred warmth, comfort, something that felt real. You arrive at a small, cosy restaurant. Nothing flashy, nothing over the top. Just soft lighting, a quiet atmosphere, and maybe a piano playing gently in the corner. He pulls out your chair, waits until you're seated, then sits down himself. And instead of talking about himself, instead of acting like the king, he asks a simple question. So, tell me about you. And he actually listens, really listens, with those soft eyes, that gentle nod, that little smile when something makes him laugh. Because for all the fame, for all the lights and the noise, Elvis Presley at heart was a listener. And that, to me, is far more romantic than any grand gesture. And I think that's something only Elvis fans truly understand. No matter how grown up you are, no matter how sensible you try to be, there's still a teenage girl inside you when it comes to Elvis. You can be standing in a queue trying to act calm and refined. But the moment his voice fills a room, something changes. Your heart lifts, your eyes soften, and suddenly you're not thinking about bills or chores or responsibilities. You're just a girl again, listening to Elvis. And I think maybe that's one of the greatest gifts he ever gave us. After dinner, maybe you go for a quiet walk. No crowds, no cameras. Just the two of you walking side by side under the evening sky. And maybe he reaches for your hand. Not dramatically, not like in a film. Just gently, naturally. And in that moment you realise something. It's not about the roses, or the restaurant, or the idea of being with Elvis Presley. It's about how he makes you feel. Calm, safe, valued and seen. Sometimes I wonder what Elvis would think if he could see all of us now. All these years later, still listening, still caring, still feeling that same warmth in our hearts. Would he be surprised? Or would he just smile that gentle smile and say, well, I always did love my fans. Because the truth is, he never really left us. Not in the ways that matter. He's still there in the songs, in the memories, in the friendships we've built because of him. And maybe, in a quiet way, every day is a little bit like Valentine's Day when you carry Elvis in your heart. And maybe that's why this daydream feels so special to many of us. Because for some of us, Elvis wasn't just a singer. He was part of our lives. He was the music in the background of family memories. He was a voice that comforted us in quiet moments. He was a feeling of warmth when the world felt a little bit cold. And that kind of love never really fades. It changes shape. It grows softer, but it stays. And maybe that's the real reason we still talk about him, still listen to him, still feel that little flutter in our hearts when his voice begins. Because some loves don't belong to one day. They stay with you for life. At the end of the evening, he walks you back to your door. No rush, no pressure, just the same gentle presence. He hands you the roses again, like he wants to make sure you don't forget them. And then he smiles and says, well, I sure had a nice time tonight. And maybe, just maybe, he leans in and kisses your cheek. Sweet, respectful, nothing more. Because that was Elvis, a gentleman to the very end. And of course, we all know this is just a daydream. But maybe that's part of the magic of Elvis. He wasn't just someone you listened to. He was someone you felt close to. Someone who could make you feel special, even through a record player, even through a television screen, even all these years later. So wherever you are today, whether you're celebrating with someone special or just enjoying a quiet moment to yourself, I hope there's a little bit of Elvis love somewhere in your day. Because loving Elvis was never really about fantasy. It was about feeling. And that feeling still lives on. So happy Valentine's Day, my lovely friends. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep a little Elvis magic in your heart. I'll see you again soon.